You want to start by creating plain white blanks. You don't necessarily need to add any mica to it to make it white. I didn't use any mica here. These are just uncolored beads. They were scrap of a scent I didn't particularly care for, and I made them a bit thinner than I usually do just to reduce the amount of beads I was using. Next, you're going to want to paint any of the areas you want to be cardstock. So here I've painted the cowboy hat and part of the boots. These are the areas that I want to create cardstock for. I used a matte acrylic paint and a brush. Matte works best because it will reduce the shine, and that's going to help when you take your pictures to get a clearer photo. Also, you do want to use black paint so that there is a contrast between the areas you want to create cardstock for and the areas that you don't. Next, you want to take a really good straight-on shot of the Freshie template that you've made using a white background. So not like this, it's not straight on. The cardstock, the perspective of it will be off. Not like this either. You want it just like this, very straight. Next, you're just going to edit the photo that you took in your phone. If you're an Android user, this might be a little bit different. I'm doing it on an iPhone, but I'm sure there's a way to do it on Android. We're going to start with black point function, and we're going to turn it all the way up so that it darkens the black. Next, I'm going to come down and choose brightness, and I'm going to put that up and down. I'm going to try different functions, clicking on them, and my end goal is I want to whiten the white and darken the black. So once again, bringing a really distinct contrast between the two colors. Black point and contrast are going to be your most helpful, and then you want to sharpen the image up and reduce noise. So here you can just watch me as I'm going through each one to see what I'm doing and kind of the end result that I get by playing around with the different functions. I do want to mention that this is not a separate app. It's actually the one in my phone. When I click on a picture up in the top corner, it has a little edit button. So I'm just editing right there in my phone in my album. This is not a separate app of any kind. So I'm just going to finish up making any last bit adjustments, and then I'm going to save the photo. So this is where all the magic happens. I'm using an app called ibisPaint. So I'm just going to open that up. Ugh, have I mentioned I have kids?
You got games on your phone.
Once you have that open, you're going to see the first little symbol there that says My Gallery. Click on that. And at the bottom left hand of the screen, you're going to see a little blue plus symbol. You want to select that. And then at the very top, select Import Picture. That's going to bring you to your photo album where you can select the picture that you edited of your Freshie template. Sometimes it asks this question. I just go with recommended. And then it's always going to ask you about extract line drawing. Just hit cancel. And now we're going to start by choosing our magic wand. And you want to click on all of the black areas. So this is going to select those sections. It does it by distinguishing between the colors, which is why we wanted the contrast of this picture as solid as we could get it. It's really going to make this part of the process easier where we don't have to do a ton of extra steps or extra editing. So go ahead and select all black areas. You'll notice in some spots that it didn't quite meet the line. You can go in just using the magic wand and clicking on the darker spots, and it will kind of blend more to the line. This can get tedious, but it generally doesn't take too much time, especially if you've done a good job editing your photo in the first place. So I'm just gonna fix those little spots up. And you can see how I'm doing that, just clicking as close to the edge as I can get it. I'm not worried about the ones that are floating in the center of the black area. I'm only worried about the ones that do not create a smooth line. And there's a little spot I forgot to click up here on the hat, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get that. So now that we have all of our areas selected, what we have selected is the only stuff that will allow us to edit. And right now, we don't want to edit that spot. So in the top right hand corner of your screen, you're going to see two little icons. One has got like a square with an image. And the other one's got a dotted outline square. We're going to click that. And inside that menu, we're going to click Invert Selection Area. This reverses what we've selected. So now it is not going to edit any of the black areas. It's only going to edit the white area around. The reason we want to do this is because there's some areas around the image that are kind of hanging around. They're shadowy spots here. So I went down to the bottom in the tools, selected the eraser, increased the size so that I could make this quick, skimmed it over the entire image, and now I've erased all that mess around the black areas and given it a transparent background. I have literally erased the background from this image. So now we're going to remove all of the selections on the image by clicking the little outline square again and hitting Remove Selection Area. This wipes all of your selected areas from the picture so that we can select new areas. So this time we're going to come over and we're going to select our magic wand again. But now we're going to click on the white area of the image. So now we've selected that we want to edit only the white area. But just like before, I don't want to edit the white area. I want to edit now the black area. So I'm going to go back up to my outline square and invert the selection. And now the only thing it's going to make changes to are the black areas. So I'm going to come down to my toolbar again. The goal now is to get rid of any of those white spots that you see within the black area. So down in the toolbar, I'm going to open that up. I'm going to select the brush tool and I'm going to make sure the color is black and that the brush is as large as I can get it. Now just swiping over the entire area of the selected spots that are black, I've gone in and really made that color solid. There are no more white spots or color impurities. The color is very flat black. Now, as you can see, some of the lines are really messy. You can go in and clean these up with a combination of the eraser tool or the brush tool. You can be as tedious about this as you want or not mind it as much. It's really just your preference and how much time you want to spend doing it. In the long run, these little imperfections are super tiny and it's really not going to make a huge difference in your printed cardstock unless the areas are really chunky or go into one area or the other. When I'm doing this, I like to use the eraser more to err on the side of caution because if you're fixing the lines using the brush tool, adding the black, you have to remember that those are your cardstock areas. And if you go too far out, the cardstock will not fit in the crevice that it is designed for. So in reality, it's better that your cardstock may be slightly smaller than slightly too big because then you're going to have to manually trim it with scissors in order to get it into the little spot that it's meant to fit in. So I'm just going to go around and clean up a few spots that are bugging me. I'm not going to go too crazy. If while you're going around and doing adjustments and you make a little oopsie like that, just hit the undo button that's in the left-hand top corner and it will undo the last thing you just did. So if you make little mistakes, it's really easy to correct them. Now that I've got it where I want it, you can see the lines still are not perfect, but that's okay. It's not going to ruin the designs. Using your magic wand tool, you'll want to select any areas that you want to add the image to, or the design or the pattern. So I'm going to start with the hat, and I've just selected all of the areas minus the band. Now if you look at the bottom at your toolbar, you're going to see an icon that's second to last. It's like a few pieces of paper with a number on top. Typically when you start here, it's 1. You're going to click on that, and in here, you're going to click on the little camera icon. So underneath your image, you see a little camera icon. Click on that. It's going to bring you to your photo album, where you can select any photos from your camera roll or albums you might have in your phone. I've just selected this cow print pattern, and I've lined it up to make sure that all of the selected areas have the pattern under it. If the image is too small, you're going to be left with a gap in the selected area. So I've just selected that and clicked the little green check on the box to confirm it. Don't worry about the pop-up, just hit cancel. And now you can go in and you can remove the selected areas by clicking the little outlined box, and in that menu, clicking remove selected areas. And you can see what you're left with. I'm going to go back. I'm going to undo that so it reselects that area because I want to show you something. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, the very last icon is an arrow that's pointing to the left. If you click on that, that's the menu that gives you the option to save your image. If you click Save Transparent PNG while there's a selected area, it's only going to save the selected area of your image. So we're going to click Save Transparent PNG with the selection on. And when you save it, so now in your camera roll, it's only saved the hat. It didn't save any of the rest of the image. So if you only wanted to save a selected area of your image, you can choose that option. So now I'm just going to select the next set of areas that I want to add the pattern to by once again using the magic wand and clicking within the black areas. And then of course coming down to the bottom and clicking the layers menu, which looks like the paper with the numbers on it, going to my albums and just choosing some random thing. This first design is going to be a mess, but once again, just making sure that the image completely fills all of the selected areas. And once I've got it in place, clicking the green arrow at the bottom right hand of the screen, hitting cancel, closing that menu, and then you can see that area. To select the next area, click on the outlined square and click on remove selection. There's also on the bottom right, a black square with a white outline and a cross across it. That also removes the selected areas. You can do it either way. If you do not remove the area you had previously selected that you just added the pattern to, when you select more areas and you bring the image in, it's going to fill those selected areas that you've already filled, and you don't want that. So between each little section that you want to add the image to, you have to select, and then once you've filled it, remove the selected areas to then select the next areas. And I'm just going to keep going through these until we have all the little areas filled. All right, so now that we have that done, I'm going to go down to the bottom toolbar, all the way to the far right to the arrow that's pointing to the left. Click on that and select Save Transparent PNG. Now I've opened it in my camera roll, and this is how it looks. So coming in now, if you want to switch out the patterns or the graphics that you have in a previous design, you'll just go to the layers option, which is once again the little stacked papers with a number on it, and select whatever layer you want to remove. So there was the cowboy hat, and then I just hit the little trash can to delete it, and it brought us back to the plain black template that we originally created. Now using the magic wand tool, I just reselected those areas again, and now I can add a different image to those areas to change the style of the hat. You can do this as many times as you want, so the amount of designs you can come up with are absolutely endless. Now I'm going to change them a couple of times in some areas just so you can see me do it a few more times. Just the process of removing part and then selecting a new image. Now I'm just going to show you, if you open your layers menu, just how you can wipe your template clean again by selecting each layer. You can see what part of the image it is connected to, and then you just select that layer, and then you hit the trash can icon, and it will get rid of whatever graphics you had put on those. And then once again, you have a blank slate, and you can start selecting areas again. Now, to make sure that this all fits within your mold, you're going to need to measure the area in which it's going to cover. So for this one, I'm just going to measure from the painted area. So the top of the painted area to the bottom of the painted area, that was 4.5. I'm not going to measure the very edges of it because that'll make it too big. So just from the painted area, from the top and the bottom. So if I was doing the sunflower, I'm going to measure from that petal that is at the highest point down to the bottom edge of it where the lowest painted edge is. So for this one, it would be 3.5. So coming over into Design Space, I just wanted to show you really quickly, when you upload the image, why we, the reason why we did the eraser and erase the background, remove the background, and that is so that when we upload it into Cricut, we don't even have to select the areas we don't want it to cut. It's already going to know the boundaries and the lines and the exact shape that we want. So getting it onto the canvas, we're going to lock the ratio or the dimensions so that when we change the height, it will automatically change the width with it and keep the perspective the same. So we measured at 4.5, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to type in 4.5. I did measure it across so that I had an idea of how wide it should be, and it measured about 4 inches. So 3.8 or 9, I can't tell what that is. It's pretty close to 4 inches, so I'm pretty confident that this is going to fit perfectly. So I know I don't need to show the machine cutting the image, but for anyone that doesn't have a Cricut, I just wanted to show how really neat this machine is. It's going to read this black box that it prints around the image, which gives it the exact measurements that it can map out where it needs to cut around your image. I mean, so accurately, it's insane. So if you're wondering if you need one, I really recommend getting one. Mine is a lifesaver. I don't know what I would do without it. It makes everything so easy and cuts so nice. Now it's the moment of truth where this is either going to be a great success or I'm going to look like a total fool. So we're going to pull the cardstock off and place it into the mold to see how close of a fit we got. So I'm going to take the top part of the hat and I'm going to put it in here. And it looks like it's pretty close. So it could be a little bit close to the edges, but I am not mad about this at all. I'd rather it be too small than be too big. I don't want to have to do any more cutting or adjusting to get the pieces to fit within the mold. So now I'm going to bring another piece over and just see how this one fits. This one's really narrow at the end, so we'll see if it goes in there, and it did perfectly. So now I'm just going to go ahead and off camera add the rest of the pieces to the inside. And that's what they all look like. I think for the most part, this is a beautiful fit. I really could not have asked for it to come out any better. So now I'm just going to pour my beads on top and bake. So now this is fresh out of the oven and I'm going to demold and give a little expert tip here. If you don't want to fill in the outlines with paint, then bake your Freshie with black beads. When you take the mold off, it's automatically going to have the black outlines you're looking for, and then all you have to paint is the other section. So like on this one, the flower and the leaves, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to go in with the paint and paint in all of the little cracks and crevices. But overall, it looks really good. I'm really pleased with the way the cardstock fits. This is the finished product after I've added the rhinestones and painted the flowers and the leaves. And I honestly think this is just absolutely beautiful. Although creating the template and all the steps that I showed you with switching out the designs seems tedious, the final outcome really is gorgeous and worth that little bit of struggle, because also once you have completed your template, that's the only time you have to do it for each different shape or mold that you're doing. You really only have to create the one, and then you can just interchange the patterns, the designs, colors, all of that good stuff. So that little bit of work really gives you a lot of variety and adds that pop to any design that you do.